When you see Olivia Lucardi in a horror movie, you know it's about to go down. Welcome back this week on my horror channel, which, depending on where you're listening, could be here. Anyways, I'm doing my annual cult horror movie week. Every month I do a themed week, and cults and horror has become a staple. So this week, for the pod, we're doing Candyland from 2022. I'll get into it in just a minute, but first, since my last episode, the most devastating thing has happened to the horror community. I'm sure a lot of you know where I'm going with this. The last drive-in with Joe Bob and Darcy has been canceled. I feel like the biggest hole has been left in my heart. We only got into the drive-in around 4 years ago, but in those 4 years, we have shared all of the blood, beasties, boobies, and more every time a new episode premiered. We would be ready at 9 p.m. with snacks ready to ogle Darcy. And well, yes, we're getting 4 new specials throughout the year. The fact that it's done, it's over, just makes my heart ache. There's been news that they are shopping the show around, and have also heard a rumor that it may be revived on Screambox, so fingers crossed, but they have sold off a lot of the pieces of the set, even the trailer that Joe Bob had since Monster Vision days. I'm sad. I would love for them to just put the show on Patreon. We already pay for the Lost Drive-In Patreon, and we catch up with old episodes of Monster Vision, but it's never going to be the same, I fear. The last drive-in was truly lightning in a bottle, and I will mourn it for the rest of my days. I feel really bad for Shudder because a lot of people are canceling their subscription. We are even considering canceling our subscription, but we love you, Joe Bob. We love you, Darcy. You guys light up our life. Something so funny, the other day also, Joe Bob had to come on and make a video saying, guys, please stop speculating about my health. I am spry as fuck. A direct quote. It made me die laughing. He has the best sense of humor. Anyways, let's get freaky with this absolutely underrated banger from 2022, Candyland, directed by John Swab. When Remy is expelled from her religious cult, she joins the secret world of truck stop sex workers, also known as lot lizards. Remy soon navigates between her strained faith and her new group's code to find her true calling in life. Okay, now this movie, I love it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. This movie is a mix of grindhouse sleaze, social commentary, and slasher horror with a dash of religious cult, which is why it feels a little different from typical horror movies. It has a bunch of working pieces that make it feel so interesting, original, and new. The movie focuses on a group of marginalized characters and mixes religious extremism, sex work, and violent moral judgment. I mentioned Olivia Lucardi earlier. She is just fantastic. She's been in It Follows, Soft and Quiet, a few seasons of Channel Zero. She understands range of character. She can truly transform from the girl next door to a terrifying racist. She reportedly approached the character of Remy in this movie, Candyland, by focusing on her religious indoctrination rather than treating her like a typical slasher villain, which is why her performance often feels quiet and emotionally detached rather than overly menacing. But let's get into a quick breakdown because I feel like this movie needs a lot of context, and spoilers will be ahead. Candyland is a gritty horror thriller set around a truck stop community of sex workers, like I mentioned, often called lot lizards, who operate under the watch of their tough but protective manager, Nora. Despite the harsh environment, the group has formed kind of a found family. They look out for each other while dealing with shady clients, a corrupt sheriff, Things take a dark turn when a quiet and religious woman named Remy shows up claiming she was kicked out of her strict religious community and needed somewhere to stay. The group reluctantly takes her in, but soon people connected to the truck stop start turning up murdered. And as the bodies pile up, it's eventually revealed that Remy herself is the killer. Raised in an extremist religious cult, she believes that she's carrying out a holy mission to cleanse sinners, targeting the sex workers and their clients because she sees their lifestyle as immoral. One by one, she betrays the people who trusted her, wiping out the truck stop family who's taken her in. By the end, the sheriff finds her emotionally shattered after learning the cult she devoted her life to has committed suicide, a mass suicide without her. And at the end, still clinging to her warped beliefs about salvation and purity, Remy ultimately takes her own life, leaving behind a bleak ending that really drives home the film's themes about religious extremism, judgment, and the tragedy of someone who is raised believing violence is righteousness. So back to Remy, her character, really quick. Her cross necklace that she wears during the movie, the whole runtime, is meant to act as a visual reminder of her religious conditioning. It appears in several scenes right before or during acts of violence, reinforcing the idea that she truly believes that she's acting with divine justification. One of the more subtle themes in the film is the contrast between two types of families. Remy comes from a religious cult that claims to offer love, purity, and salvation, but it's actually built on control, fear, and violence. But meanwhile, the truck stop sex workers, the people society often judges, they form a genuine found family. They support each other emotionally, they share money, they protect newcomers, they look out for one another's safety. The tragedy is that Remy ends up destroying the only real community she ever had, because the cult upbringing taught her that compassion towards sinners is wrong. Now, one thing I want to mention is Jon Swab, director, is mostly known for crime dramas, and I feel like you can totally feel that here. It's the tone. I do feel like his background in crime movies, dramas, helped the movie flow in a more interesting way. One of the leads in this movie is Eden Brolin, who is Josh Brolin's daughter. She looks just like him, but she's really cool in this movie. And the corrupt cop, who is a disgusting freak, by the way, is played by William Baldwin. He is a slime ball in this movie. Now, Jon Swab said he intentionally wrote the sex worker characters to feel like a family unit rather than just stereotypes. He wanted the audience to connect with them before the horror elements actually kick in, which is why the movie spends a lot of time showing them joking, hanging out, protecting each other early on. The movie's title, Candyland, is meant to be darkly ironic. Instead of the colorful board game that it refers to, in this element, it's actually the truck stop environment where everything looks sweet or playful on the surface, but it's actually full of danger and exploitation. The truck stop setting was chosen because it's a place where people are constantly passing through, which creates a feeling that characters can disappear or be killed without anyone noticing right away. Many of the nighttime scenes were shot in very minimal lighting to mimic real truck stop lighting, which is why the film has that gritty neon and headlights look. It's very cool. It does feel like an ode to gritty grindhouse horror, and I love that. Back to Remy really quick. The film never really explicitly states this, but a lot of people interpret Remy's actions as a desperate attempt to prove herself to her cult. And when she learns the cult committed mass suicide without waiting for her, how rude, it suggests that she was never truly accepted by them. So all the violence she committed to prove her devotion ultimately meant nothing in the long run, which is really sad when you think about it. Remy realizes the cult that she believed in is gone, the people who showed her actual kindness are dead because of her, and her life's purpose is meaningless. Her final act is less about punishment and more about complete psychological collapse. The biggest irony in Candyland is that the people Remy believed were morally corrupt are portrayed as the most compassionate and human characters. Meanwhile, it's the person claiming religious righteousness that becomes the true monster. One of the most disturbing things about this movie is that the real monster isn't sex or crime or the truck stop world. It's the idea that someone can commit horrific violence and truly believe they're doing God's work. Now, Candyland ends up being much bleaker and a more interesting movie than it first appears. What starts as a gritty story about survival and a truck stop slowly turns into a slasher, but the real horror isn't the violence, it's the warped belief system driving the violence. The film creates this really tragic contrast between Remy, who was raised in a religious cult that taught her to judge and cleanse sinners, and the truck stop workers who, despite the lives they lead, actually form a compassionate found family that looks out for one another. And by the time the truth comes out, the entire sense of community has been destroyed by someone who really believed that she was doing the right thing. It leaves you with this uncomfortable idea that sometimes the most dangerous people aren't the ones living on society's margins, but the ones convinced they have the moral authority to decide who deserves to live or die. And that's what makes Candyland such a dark and unsettling little horror to sit with after the credits roll. And that's today's episode. Have you seen Candyland? If you haven't, I highly recommend it. I believe it's on TUBI. This is just a really cool film about deciding what's right, what's wrong, and if it's okay to be that person to decide what's right and wrong. But in saying all of that, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for being weird. I'll talk to you in the next video, and please don't forget, the drive-in will never die. Sayonara, suckers.